Welcome. I'm Kinetic Symphony. I hunt down and report on mysterious and weird, true stories, from glitches to the paranormal. Case file number 723, written by Ladygreyzilla. My pregnant neighbor isn't the same person. I'm hesitant to tell this story. No one believes it, even my husband who saw the whole thing, but here we go. My neighbors directly across the street from me, they're married and expecting a baby. The wife is a tiny blonde woman, very Caucasian, very tiny build. We wave to each other daily and yell salutations across the street. She goes into labor and they leave for the hospital. A week later, I see the car has returned, so I bake some cookies to take over and congratulate them. Another day or two goes by, and I see a thick, brunette lady outside with the baby, and I wave, assuming it's a relative that's come to help with the newborn. A few more days pass, and I see the husband outside with the brunette and the baby, so I take the cookies over. It's her. It's the wife? Same name, same personality, and the same demeanor, except now she's a thick, kinda tall brunette, Pacific Islander. The husband doesn't even acknowledge any difference. She talks to me and treats me the same way she always has, but it's a totally different physical person. My husband noticed as well. We even made some jokes about his wife swapping at the hospital, but since he can't wrap his brain around it, he starts to believe that she's always been this person, even though he clearly remembers her as teeny and blonde. I feel like everyone has lost their minds. It's been almost 2 years since that shift, and she's still a thick, tall brunette. And then I feel like maybe I have lost my mind. My only consolation is that my husband remembers it too, if only vaguely. I showed the picture I found of her to my husband last night. He's a little bit of a mess about it. The man is not a conspiracy guy, at all. But he remembered her. There's no denying that. He started asking some questions and tossing around ideas about what could have happened. I convinced him to go to the church this morning and attend their service. I spoke briefly with the pastor and said my neighbor had recommended that I attend. He was grateful she was sending people his way, even though, get this, she had not attended service since she had the baby. She apparently changed churches to one a little closer when she gave birth. So I don't know where to go next except for putting some feelers out in the neighborhood and finding an excuse to hang out with her. I spoke directly to my neighbor. I endured the heat all week and spent way too much on flowers to plant in an attempt to run into my neighbors. The old lady next door doesn't remember the neighbor's wife having blonde hair, but her middle-aged daughter does. She said, "Yeah, that was a couple years ago. I don't know why she went so dark. I thought it would wash her out." When I pointed out that it wouldn't wash her out because her complexion is tan now, she looked confused and said that maybe she had been tanning because she did look darker. I pushed it a little further and asked if she also seemed taller, but she seemed stuck on the fact that the very Caucasian blonde woman had gotten tan enough for such dark hair to look natural. She gave me several reasons, but didn't seem convinced either. I also spoke to the changed lady's next door neighbor and mentioned her having blonde hair before. Neither he nor his wife remember her ever being blonde. They both agreed she had dark hair even on move-in day. Yesterday, I finally cornered the changed neighbor lady outside. She pulled up with groceries and I offered to help carry them with her. I started talking about the church and how I had spoken with the pastor. She said some really nice stuff about the church, but also that she needed a church closer. That's why she switched. When I pointed out that her new church was actually further away, she said she had never actually measured it, but it seemed closer. I pointed out that her old church was in our town, and our new church is in the next town over, and she said the back roads must just make it seem shorter. Some red flags popped up here because the back roads around here are long and windy roads that circle around our town and pass by all the farmland. It doesn't ever make things go quicker. It's a nicer drive, sure, but it always adds a good chunk of drive time. Also, the new church is in the middle of the town, 2 streets over from Main Street. So if you take the back roads, you actually have to circle back to get on the main roads to get onto it anyway. It would have been much more convenient to take a direct route using the town roads that connect the two towns. It's almost a straight shot from the middle of our town to the next town over. I don't know why that bothered me so much, but it did. After a little while of small talk, I brought up the hair. I said that I was trying to go blonde to hide some gray that I have coming in, and did she have any tips? She laughed and said the last time she was blonde she was in high school and it was a mess, so she didn't recommend it. I pointed out that she was blonde right before having her baby, and she got really weird, almost defensive, and said she hadn't. She had only tried to go blonde that one time in high school and it turned orange, so she dyed it back immediately. I told her I chalked it up to pregnancy because she was definitely blonde while she was pregnant. She ended the conversation shortly after and thanked me for my help, but you could tell she was annoyed with me. So guys, not super sure what I've learned other than the girl next door to me, the old lady's daughter, and I are going to have another chat. She made me feel like she remembered, but she couldn't wrap her head around it. I'm gonna go back to the church on Sunday to poke around and talk to some other people. Maybe I can dig up some more. Case notes for file 723. My pregnant neighbor isn't the same person. So while reading this, my mind kept going towards witness protection. There was like an alarm bell going off in my head. This must be WITSEC. But there are flaws with this theory. The first, of course, is I've never heard of WITSEC placing a single individual into a new family, or relocating a single individual and then replacing her with an actor? I suppose it's not inconceivable, especially if there's a large monetary reward for the other person that's just impersonating them. It doesn't seem sustainable to me. But I suppose for a temporary small amount of time it could be possible. But if we're talking years here, I don't know. Doesn't seem quite right, does it? There is a small thing that does support this though, in that when you confronted the neighbor about her having blonde hair while being pregnant, she got defensive. That seems strange. It seems something to sort of laugh at, not get defensive over, unless you're actually guarding something very important and the secret is getting close to being discovered because of these questions. That does lend towards the idea. Now, if it is WITSEC, why do half the people you talk to, including your husband, remember her as the old way, at least in part, maybe hair color being different, but not exactly all the details of her size and everything, skin color? But then the other half don't remember her being different at all. They always remember her being as this tall brunette. It's conceivable that this is just attributable to neighbors not really paying attention to each other anymore. I know in the past they did, but these days, I don't really notice my neighbors all that much. I couldn't tell you what they look like. So it's possible it's just absent-mindedness from the other neighbors not paying attention. Now, assuming it's not WITSEC, what else could it be? For the same reasons, I don't think it's quantum immortality, because people remember her, at least have to, as she was before. And it's not like half the neighborhood went through quantum immortality and were transposed to the same new universe. Plus, you actually have a picture of how she was before. You have physical proof, which wouldn't move with you if you did die and go to a new universe. So that can't be it. Dare I say aliens? Somehow, for some reason, impersonating this specific lady, and then trying to alter the memories of other people, but it's only halfway successful? And of course, they didn't remove the picture you had. To be fair though, as much as I like the idea of aliens, it doesn't really make any sense. What would be the motive? It's a bit of a stretch. To be honest, I'm stumped here. It's just a good story. Case file number 724. Written by Alarmed Fan 4932. The Tandem Teleportation Incident. My apologies if this doesn't quite make sense, but I'm freaked out and I have no idea how to explain this. My coworker and I were driving back from our dinner to the place we were staying at. We had driven this route a handful of times, and we were very familiar with the surrounding area. It was a 7-minute drive from the restaurant to where we were staying. Okay, so we left the restaurant and had a straight drive for about 2 miles, no turns until we had to take a right turn into the parking area of the property we were staying at. As we approached the hotel, the tall "Courtyard by Marriott" sign was visible, as was the building. We were a block away from the turn, and then we suddenly just weren't. We were all of a sudden driving on a highway, about to take the exit on the right. It was immediately apparent, and I said to my coworker, "Wait, something is wrong here." And he replied, "Yeah, what the hell just happened? We were just about to turn into the parking area." I told them to pull over, and I looked up on maps where we were. The map showed we were 20 minutes away, in the opposite way we had come from. It was physically impossible. And the time on the clock was still the same as it was when we were next to the hotel. I don't understand, and neither does he. And he doesn't want to tell anyone because it sounds just so crazy. We genuinely teleported 20 minutes away, and it's the same time. It was the single most disorienting feeling I have ever experienced. But now, after that, I feel like everyone in my life has just changed. Everyone feels so distant. I can't shake the feeling that something is still really very off. Please help if you can.